around mental health issues and the impact that it's having on our African American and other disenfranchised communities. If you are, join us, your hosts, MERENCIA HENSON, LaCretia Lee, and WALANDA Johnson on our Mindful Moments mental health radio show every second and fourth Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, as we dive into a mindful dialogue to empower, inform, and bring awareness to the positive impact of mental health wellness. Good evening, everybody. Happy, post-Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Everyone had a great, safe, healthy, relaxing, great time. Of course, things have changed this year, but in the midst of it all, I hope that everybody had a great opportunity to enjoy their Thanksgiving. I am one of your hosts. My name is MERENCIA HENSON. I am Associate Clinical Social Worker here in San Diego. I work with children, adolescents, and adults that have intellectual disabilities as well as mental health disorders.
Hi, I'm LaCretia Lee. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in San Diego. I work at one of the detention facilities. And what I do is I assess for suicide ideation. And what that means, I'm assessing inmates to make sure that they're not planning to harm or kill themselves.
And I am WALANDA Johnson, licensed marriage and family therapist. And I work in private practice with individuals who are dealing with life stressors, anxiety, things that just get them stuck in life, whether it be relational, through their occupation, or just in general. And I am happy to be here tonight. I had a really great Thanksgiving yesterday.
Yeah, we're just going to check in. I know that this evening we're going to be discussing, holiday blues, as well as how to manage our mental health during this season when it comes to loss and grief. Suicide, depression, and just how real it is, right? Especially right now through this pandemic. But before we dive in, just want to check in with you ladies. How has everybody been doing with Thanksgiving, and what is new with this, pandemic and having Thanksgiving this year than any other year? If anybody wants to start off.
Yeah, sure. Definitely enjoyed Thanksgiving and enjoying post-Thanksgiving. It's very, very different. I have what we call extended family or adoptive family here in San Diego, and it's quite large. And generally we are being thankful with them, eating and just loving on one another. This year was really different. Fortunate to have my sister and brother-in-law and nephews who moved to San Diego about a few months ago. But my sister and I did a turnaround trip, drove 6 hours to pick up my mom, waited a few more hours, and then got back on the road and brought her back here with us. And then, but my sister's family, husband and children went to visit her in-laws. So it was girls, it was me, myself, me, my daughter, my mom and sister. And we have a whole plethora of food, but we've just been enjoying each other. And like I said, it's really different, but I'm still very thankful. Very, very thankful.
Well, I'm just glad that, you had traveling mercies and that you got up here safely, that the Lord allowed you to come back safely. So
thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Enjoyed your family and you all, came back home safely.
Yeah. What about you, MERENCIA?
Well, this was a new Thanksgiving for me and my daughter, Isabella. Not only just, because of the pandemic and having a smaller family size, but also we spent it with my boyfriend and his parents. We had such a great time. We just vegged, we relaxed, we just hung out. So it was just really nice. Every year I'm with my side of the family, but it was just great just to be with them who I love so much as well. So it was good.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's great. And WALANDA, you already said you had a great time. What'd you do?
I spent the morning in a long Starbucks line because I wanted some hot apple cider, caramel apple cider. That was like an hour wait, which I was surprised. But then after that, I just picked up dinner at a nearby diner who's going to cook food for one person, and enjoyed my dinner by myself. We had my family, I got to see my family. We had a gender reveal for one of my nieces. So that was awesome. So I got to see everyone's faces. on Zoom, and we know how hilarious Zoom is
Yeah.
with 20 some people on it. So that was fun. Yeah, that was fun. And after that, I hung out with a girlfriend that I've known like my whole life. So I hung out with her and her family, and that was it.
That's excellent. That is so excellent.
It was very peaceful.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what was like the key thing this year, just the peace that just came with the relaxation and just being, you know, we're always talking, especially as believers, like how blessed we are, right? Like how grateful we are, but especially in this time of need or this time of season, it really puts life in a different perspective with everything going on in this world.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I know. At least I know for my family, I'm sure for most, there's some fond memories, or just when you think about Thanksgiving, maybe some things that probably come up for you. And I'm kind of curious if we mind sharing those. I know for myself, you know, it's about the food and the laughter.
Yes, always.
Food
always
and
about
laughter.
the food.
And so, yeah, so we were like, you know, I was like, that's one thing we can make right, you know. So after picked up my mom, got into town, back into San Diego, woke up early in the morning. I was like, everybody up, let's head to the store. Because I'm like, I'm trying to get out before there's a lot of crowds, and I don't want to go to different stores.
You went the day of?
No.
Oh, well, that's my daughter.
That's life. She wants to be a part. She wants to be a part of the triad. It's okay. Bring her on in.
That's all right. That's real stuff right there.
It is.
No, we didn't go the day of it. I'm just saying, but by the time we got back in town, I just wanted to get whatever we needed beforehand. I didn't want to go around the different stores. And once we got out the way, you know, we're chilling. But the food, ladies, food, yeah. So
and it almost seems like the food tastes better even the next day.
Always.
Like the seasonings are more rich within the food. Yeah.
Always. And
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
One thing that really stands out with my family in the past, like almost every year, whether it's Thanksgiving or we have it in for Christmas, but we always have a talent show with the kids.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, so you know, there's always somebody that's gonna sing, somebody's gonna play an instrument, somebody's gonna rap, you know, little kids are gonna do a little skit or play. So that's one thing in our family, whether it's Thanksgiving time or Christmas, that we love and that we look forward to is the talent show with the little ones, or even as a teenager. And one funny thing within our family is even if you're like a young adult, they're still like, so what are you gonna do?
That's why I was gonna ask you, like, come on now, what about yeah.
What'd you do?
What's the last thing you recall doing, Merencia? What did you do?
I think I did a poem. I think it was a poem, or so like in high school I played the clarinet for like 2 years, and then after that I was like thought I was like too good to be a marching band. So I think like for a while I played the clarinet. That's
all right. That's good.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's one like a fun, you know, holiday memory.
Right.
Yeah, mine's is the food and just being with family. My family, like I said, our Zoom call there's a lot of us. So I mean, you know, I'm a little ashamed to say it, but you know, confess your sins. Like I was a little happy that my family wasn't meeting all together, because then I didn't feel so like, it's hard being so far away from your family when you're close to them. So when they were like, well, we're not going to get together because there's like 25 of us. And I was like, okay, I'm sad you guys aren't getting together, but I don't feel so left out because I'm so far away. Yeah, I'm a little selfish. I'm the last child. So that's my flaw. Don't judge me. But yeah, so
got it.
But being together with them, like, we're just an interesting bunch, and we do have a lot of laughter. We joke on each other, we crack on each other.
You gotta have you have to have some thick skin in our family, or else you ain't gonna last.
yeah, and don't come with no dish that is like,
hello.
I'm not gonna say who makes this dish.
Don't say that.
You know, somebody, you know, brings a green bean casserole, and my Black family, I don't know about everybody else's Black family, but my Black family, we don't eat that. So, but yeah. So the food, the laughter, just being able to love on each other, and we're very affectionate. So it's just it's always good to be with my family. So
one last thing I'll say is even on my dad's side of the family, I'll say it. Dad's side of the family, they still try to like have kids tables. Like even like when you're in college, and me and my cousins are like, you know, we're in college, like, you know, we're like 18, 19. They still like, no. Y'all can sit at the table, like the grown folks, like, we're grown, but it's so funny. It's like now that like I have a daughter and like my cousins have kids, so now we could really say like, no, like they'll sit there. Now that we're parents, we're gonna be sitting with our aunts and uncles. But that is hilarious because I think they really try to like stretch that as long as possible. So funny.
But that is hilarious.
Speaking of the stories, because my daughter is born and raised here in San Diego, she hasn't grown up around a lot of like biological family. And so when we were in town, you know, where I'm from, my cousin, we tell the same stories over and over, and we laugh like we've heard them for the first time. And so just to see my daughter's eyes, like, Mom, you did what? Or your cousins did what? And it's on the way coming home, she's asking me all these questions, you know, because she can't believe some of the stories, you know, all legal stuff, but exactly, funny. Right. So yeah. And then the food thing, I don't know about your family. With my family, people were known for bringing certain dishes. Some of the dishes, like you mentioned, well, I know the family didn't like. You know what I mean? Like every year, like someone's about the cornbread, that hard cornbread, or like that. It's like, and we joke and talk smack the whole time, but let them not bring that whatever it is that we don't like. Yeah, we're gonna talk even more smack.
That's funny.
Because at some point it gets eaten after the food starts going down. You know, you put more gravy on it or what have you. You know, but if they don't bring it, oh man, you know, so yeah.
Nah, you can leave that green bean casserole. I ain't eating that if there's nothing else left.
That's wrong.
I'm not having that. Green what? No.
Absolutely.
That's funny.
So, you know, along with the funny stuff, I mean, I don't know if we want to just jump right into challenges and stuff like that, because as we get older, you know, things shift, you know, even if it wasn't for coronavirus, some of us move away, right? We have someone's, you know, some loved ones who've passed. Sometimes it's the year of, like we, you know, some of us have lost loved ones this year, and dealing with that. Have any of you experienced any of that? Any losses? Well, you talked about being away from home, so that's definitely a loss. But any loss of any loved ones that you care to share about or whatever?
Yeah. And as I was thinking more about this topic, you know, I do experience the holiday blues, not to a severe degree, but my parents are no longer alive. Like they passed when I was in my 20s, and so. And I'm a single person, like all my sisters, like they have kids or they're married. So just that sense of not really belonging to anybody, like it's intensified around the holidays. So so it's like I need to be with my family around the holidays, because like that's how I feel connected. So yeah, it's gotten a lot better over the years. Obviously, this was in my 20s, but you know, you don't think about your holidays without thinking about that time you got a Cricket doll, or you got that red strawberry shortcake bike, or, you know, those things that, you know, your parents were like, this is from Santa. And you're like, okay, thanks, Mom and Dad.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. So, while you mentioned something like about being, you know, solo, not, you know, family, what have you. Now, I know you have a biological family, but everybody's different. I guess I'm thinking as like a single person, do you find that you have to reach out to others, or do people keep you in mind and reach out to you? I'm just kind of curious about that personally.
Other than my family? Yeah, I have people that reach out to me. I have people that reach out to me. My friends do pretty well, regularly checking in on me. So yeah, I'm blessed. I'm blessed in that measure. Like, I don't know how sane I would be if I didn't, even though I do like my space. I run more on the introverted side. But just knowing that you're on someone's mind, like that means a lot to me. So yeah.
Yeah, I was curious about that. Yeah.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I was curious. I know earlier this year, January in particular, I lost a first cousin, female,
Mm,
and it was one of those things where it was sudden, because she lives in a different city. I
mm-hmm.
didn't know she was ill. And once I was speaking to my mom, and she says, "Oh, yeah, I spoke to your cousin and she's doing better." And I'm like, "Well, wait, better from what?"
Right.
You don't know. And my mom is one of these people where it doesn't matter how much I say, "Listen, keep me up to date with what's going on." If it's negative stuff, it's just not something she's going to keep me up to date with.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been
Mm-hmm.
that way. So then I'm wondering, is she really okay? And then I spoke to her, my cousin, and it sounds like she was doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
And she was one of those persons who always smiled, always had a love and hugs and kisses. She was younger than me. And next thing you know,
Oh,
she's not
wow.
here. And she has a young child. And it was just like,
Wow.
yeah. So we're still working through that. So though
Yeah.
I think about her family, her immediate family, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, are they doing okay? And things like that. So yeah.
My condolences for
Yeah.
sure to
Yeah,
your family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know for me, I personally, and of course it's a blessing, I haven't lost anyone
Mm-hmm.
from the pandemic, but I can share that, I've had, I want to say more than half of my clients from work that have really
Mm.
been dealing with loss and grief,
Mm-hmm.
loss of a sibling, a
Yeah.
loss of a husband, a loss of a brother, son.
Wow.
So I've really been helping my clients in the last 2 months, really just like prepare for the holidays,
Mm-hmm.
really just strengthen their toolbox of what they can use,
Mm.
those healthy coping skills,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
knowing that these holidays are going to come. One particular client, just what, a week, no, 2 weeks ago, it was like the anniversary of her brother's passing.
Okay.
So just helping her, through still processing 12 plus years later,
It's
um,
real.
it really is. And I know we'll be discussing just loss and grief. And the thing about it, and which I tell my clients, is that don't ever let someone tell you, "Oh, it's been 10 years, it's been 5 years, it's been
Okay.
20 years. Oh, you're still grieving." Like, I
Yeah.
think that's the most disrespectful thing to say to somebody,
Absolutely.
because everybody grieves differently. And,
Absolutely.
and regardless if it's the holidays, if it's the anniversary of the person of passing or their birthday, you may be on a different stage of the grieving, you know, uh,
Yeah.
the grieving level,
The
right?
circle, whatever it is.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. Depending on like where you're at in your life, like we know, ladies, when it comes to the 5 stages of grief, it's denial,
Mm-hmm.
bargaining, acceptance, depression, and anger. And, like we all know, and for the viewers I may not know, it's not linear. So what that
Right.
means is it doesn't just start with denial and then it ends with acceptance. Again, depending on where you're at in your life and in that season, you may go from denial to anger to acceptance to depression, or, depending on the person, you may stay with acceptance and depression. Maybe you're not going through other
Mm-hmm.
stages, Um,
Mm-hmm.
so just, wrap around what we were just discussing earlier. For me right now, it's just really processing my mental state, helping my clients, because as a therapist, it can be draining, so it's like going
Absolutely.
back to my support system and venting and talking about it,
Yeah.
because it can be heavy trying to help somebody that is dealing with
Yeah.
these different types of losses right now.
Absolutely. And I wanted to add something to that, Merencia, about grieving for 10 plus years. I would literally probably say in the last 4 to 5 years, I've actually gotten to the point of acceptance with my parents being gone.
Mm.
Because
Wow.
what happens is you grieve, but then like there's moments of your life that they're not there, and you're just like, you get pissed all over again.
Yeah.
You get depressed all over again. They didn't see me graduate college. They didn't, they're not here to see me move across they're just not here for certain things. And so when you think about those things, it's like, like I want to just talk to you. Like, I just want you to be here. So it takes however long it takes for you to move through those stages, and just be gracious with yourself. Cause it's not something that you, even when you accept it, you'll still have those moments where you're like, oh, dang, they're not here. Like you'll still have those moments. So it's just part of the process.
Exactly.
And to not to judge how somebody grieves.
Absolutely. It's not your right.
Right, exactly. And I, if I could just explain just a little bit of each stage, when it comes to denial, that's one of the first feelings that someone can have. And that's just not being in reality. You know what I mean? Like denying of what just happened. And, majority of the time, like, this isn't happening, right? And that really, what happens is it kind of blocks your feelings or your emotion of just that first state of what you just heard, whether it's your parents or Lucretia, like you said with your cousin that passed away. And it really just, it allows that person to allow them to have their feelings to be numbed, so they're not really thinking about it, putting it back in their mind. It's not happening. I'll deal with it later. But like we know, subconsciously or consciously, it will come out. And then again, anger, like you said, when it comes to anger, it may be like, I'm so angry. God, why did you take my brother? Why did you take my parents? And you're going to have that. It's not like, why are you being mad at God? But it's like, we're only human, Another one is bargaining. So again, God, like, only if you brought my mom back, only if you brought my uncle back, like I would have been a better daughter or a better sister, The next one is depression. And that one's just isolating while you're mourning the death or the loss of somebody. And then again, acceptance is you're accepting that loss of what just occurred. And I think it's also important to know that there's different losses. So whether it's your work related, like a lot of people right now, financially, health, a loved one, a pet, even a big move from a state or a different city. So there's different types of losses that can occur for you to be going through these different stages.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
And I just wanted to kind of like go speak a little bit more details about what you were saying about how people grieve differently. And Walanda, you were saying, allow yourself to that process, whatever it looks like for you. It is not going to look the same. And I think when people begin to understand that, then they can, show more grace. Speaking of losses, yes, I definitely lost my cousin at the beginning of the year from a type of cancer. But I think the biggest loss to date for me is I had a young brother, and he was killed when he was a teenager. And so everything you just described, the different, stages of grief, went through them. But for me, for a long time, I experienced what I call like this numbness. Like the way I used to describe it is like, yes, I'm functioning.
Like robot.
I got to be I'm in school. I'm in job. I have a job. I have to live. I have to pay bills. But I used to describe myself that it felt like I was in this bubble, and this bubble was. And I was there for a really long time. So even when you talk about losses, you can lose like parts of yourself.
Wow.
Like the ability to connect with someone, or the desire to connect on a level deeper than something superficial. For a long time for me, it's be like to keep people at bay. And that if they no longer were in my life, okay, it was cool knowing them. But the more people I let inside and loved, wow, it's a potential for that pain.
I need you to get out of my closet.
Girl,
come on here, girl, get out of my closet.
I was there for a while, and I was, going to school to be a therapist. And then for a while, I questioned my profession. I'm like, well, I couldn't protect or save that which was dearest to me.
Oh, I see.
So why am I working to help protect others? I questioned that for a while and switched up for a minute. But I came back because I think it's a natural calling, a gift of mine to help people help themselves. But recognizing that it was a part of me that it's not there. Even though I had a child, I'm like, yes, it was new love, a new type of love, but it's a part that it will always be there. And I can recognize that, and I can accept that, and I don't have to be happy about that. And I can move on, continue to move forward. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that some things is just always just going to be a part of us.
Absolutely.
Thank you for
Absolutely.
sharing that and being
Mhm.
vulnerable. Would you say that you, whether it was consciously or subconsciously, Lucretia, that you kept yourself busy just so that you wouldn't like feel the pain?
You know what? There were times when I wasn't physically busy, but I disconnected
Mm-hmm.
from that feeling of loss and pain and stuff, because for me to connect with it meant that I was going to break down. And at that time I associated that with weakness.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to function the way I feel I need to function if I break down. That was a real big strong part. And my mother wasn't in the same city, my family wasn't in the same city, and I'm like, I got to do this. I got to keep it going.
Yeah.
And I want to share a little part for me. For a while, church was huge.
Girl.
I cannot go into church and maintain the sense of strength
Yeah.
to keep my head up.
Mhm.
Church is the one
That's
place I
real.
would go and I would break down.
Break
Now,
all the way. Yes.
listen, right. So, fast forward, I realized I needed that catharsis. I needed that.
Yeah.
But for me at the time, if I broke down, then I could not function with the strength what I consider strength, and I couldn't be what I thought I needed to be. So I would get angry. I'm like, I don't want to go to church.
Oh, I see.
It takes me somewhere that I don't want to be,
Mm.
mentally, emotionally. So that is something I had to work through as well.
Now, did you
Mhm.
feel that was your part of your process of healing and allowing God to make you feel okay of just breaking down, knowing that was like the healing process for you?
I mean, because I felt like I was looking into myself for strength.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm the one that's going to make all this happen.
Okay.
And I was not leaning on God. I'm just keeping it real.
Mm-hmm.
That I
Mhm.
was like, well, if I break down, who's going to take care of me? Who's going to keep
Mm-hmm.
me functioning here on earth? Who's going to make it
Yeah.
help me with this?
Right.
And I was like, until I can figure that out, I got to stay strong.
Yeah.
I have to stay strong. And
Yeah.
so me saying, you going into the church, that strength, or what I consider strength, keeping my head up, not crying, and working and moving forward, that would go out the window. And I'm like, well, hold up, who's gonna pick me up when it's going out the window?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it took a minute for me to work through that. And yeah, absolutely.
I think
Understand that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My experience was different. Like you said, grief is different. Mine was, I needed that at church, and I dove in. I think my relationship with God got so much stronger. And even in all of my anger towards him, like I was throwing it all in the freeway, driving to work, like crying, bawling, like, you could take me now. Like, I don't need to be here. My parents are gone. Like, hey, like, I'm not going to kill myself. But if you decide you want to take me, I will be okay with that, because I will be with them.
Okay.
Like, just having those real conversations with God about like, whew, like, you all I got. Like, if this don't work, you all I got. So,
wow.
but
Now,
yeah,
Walanda,
everybody's grief is completely different.
Yeah.
Walanda, did you know that it was okay to be angry at God?
I don't even think that was even like something that I really thought about. I was just like, look, I'm angry. I can't give it to anybody else, because either they are going to woo me, and I don't want that, or they're going to try to, like, I had people that would try to make me laugh, and I'm like, no, that's not, you're not acknowledging. Like, I want you to acknowledge. I don't want you to baby me. I want you to acknowledge, but I don't want you to like try to distract me, because I know I need to go through this. Like you say, going through school, you're going through school as a therapist, you're learning like these things. So for me, it was like the only place that I can give it was with God. That was like the only safe place for me. Wow. So
one key thing that just stood out to me, that I was just discussing this with a client of mine just last week, is she was like, too many times my friend says, how are you doing? And she's like, I don't like that. Because she's like, how do you think I feel? Like, yeah, it's been, 12 years since my brother has passed, how do you think I feel right now? And
Mhm.
where, I mean, I'm not going to disclose everything, but where she's working at right now is a huge trigger for her of how
Mhm.
her brother passed away. So she's really doing like dealing with a lot of flashbacks and triggers and just really helping her through this process. But the key thing I wanted to say is that, you know, when you see somebody that's crying or is depressed or is angry, I don't think, and again, like we talked about, it's of course, people don't know what to say, right? Like, oh my God, like, I'm so
Exactly.
sorry for your loss. Like,
Right.
how are you feeling? And I was telling her, you know, if you're
Mhm.
really close to that family member or that friend, you know, let them know, like, you know what?
Mhm.
How about you say,
Absolutely.
how can I help you right now? What do you
Absolutely.
so I said, you know, getting away from like that, how, you know what I mean? And again, like, this is why we have our show, right? To educate people, to really steer
Mhm.
away from that. Like, yeah, we understand that it's coming from a good place, but it's like, how do you think I feel? I feel angry. I feel depressed. I feel
Mhm.
sad. But again, I think those key things to really say is, how can I help you? Or
Absolutely.
what is going to help you get through this process? Like, you tell me what you need. I think another key thing too is when people say, oh, if you need anything, call me. Or if you want to talk, call me. And it's like, okay, if I'm depressed or if I'm mourning, I
Mhm.
would think, and ladies, you tell me if I'm wrong, like, I think it's important for them to call that person that's going through
Mhm.
that loss, because like you two ladies know more than me, if I'm in my anger stage or my depression stage or my bargaining stage, I'm not going to reach out to anybody because I'm in my own
Mhm.
rut of what's going on.
Absolutely.
So I think that's another key thing to educate our viewers and just to remind ourselves sometimes.
Yeah.
It's so important of our
Absolutely.
words and how we can, you know, just be there and support that person that's
Absolutely.
Yeah, you hit on it, Merencia.
Absolutely.
It is complicated. It is difficult. And for me, when I love someone and they've lost someone, it is a difficult place for me because I really want to be of help, of service, of comfort. And like you said, not knowing, but pushing through my own stuff, it's like what you just said, for me to tell someone, call me if you need me.
well, yeah.
I know I'm never going to get a call. It's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? So I don't expect
Mhm.
that. And so, like you said, listen, I generally come with something like, I love you. I want to be here for you. Um,
Mhm. I'm available.
tell me what I can do. Is there something I can
Mhm.
do
Right.
right now? And I've even said this, like, right, you don't need anything. Are you okay if I just come and just be in your presence? We don't
Yeah.
talk. Because I know
Mhm.
for me, that helped with, for me when I lost my brother. For a while, I don't want to talk. I didn't want people to say, how are you doing? I didn't want any of that. I just,
Mhm.
but then it got to a place where I was okay for someone to be in the same space. We didn't
Mhm.
have to be talking about
Wow,
anything.
that's good.
Mhm.
TV could be on, we could be watching, not watching it, but just some sort of proximity.
Yeah.
And that was cool for me. And everybody's different at different times.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
That's
What
good. At different times. That's
Yeah.
good. That's a
Yeah.
key.
Hmm.
what works for you, Walanda? That could help somebody.
Ooh. I, I was very isolative. Like I didn't even allow my sisters, I have four amazing sisters. They are
Yeah.
my rock, but I didn't even allow them to be there for me. Like for me, um, it was really just a me and God thing. Like I
Okay.
didn't talk to friends. I didn't talk to godparents. I didn't talk to my sisters. It was just me and God. And I was like, it really felt like a Jacob ladder. Like we got to wrestle this out because
Wow.
I can't, I have to come out of this with something. Um, and either my relationship with you is going to be like, we in this like, whoo, or I'm not going to want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that was, but that was just my thing is just, I was just really, I don't think anybody could have, I mean, I don't know, obviously, I don't think anybody could have really helped me carry that.
Mhm.
I know I didn't want anybody to help me carry that. So again,
Right.
different process, just
And
different
Melanda, like
process.
your relationship with your parents was different than your sister's relationships. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have one sister
Mm-hmm.
and I have my mom, and we lost my brother. But
Mm-hmm.
my relationship with him was absolutely different than my sister's relationship
Mm-hmm.
with him. I was almost 12 years older than him. And my sister was 2 years older than him. You understand? So our relationship dynamics were very, very different.
Yeah.
And so it's like we were all grieving, but the loss was a little different for each of us. It truly was,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing that we're all talking about too, and I think it's so important, I've really been talking to my clients about this, is having a support system, whether it's a close friend, a family member, even. And I think what's even important too, just of what I've been, what my clients been sharing with me throughout the years of doing therapy, is having a support group. For an example, maybe a support group for siblings that lost a sibling, you know what I mean? Or parents, that's lost a child, so that like all the parents could be in a room together, all the, individuals, adults that have lost a sibling, to know like, wow, like you understand this pain of, losing a sibling or losing a child.
Yeah.
Because again, somebody from the outside that's never lost a sibling or a parent, they may not really understand, you know what I mean? Of course, every relationship is different when it comes to the loss, but just finding a support system for the type of loss, I think that it's really, really important. Again, whether it's a family member, a friend, number one, God, your spirituality, and also, reaching out to different support groups relating to, your loss that you're grieving.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. So, it's interesting. Speaking of loss, it's unfortunate, but San Diego used to have this amazing organization, in my opinion, that existed, was the San Diego Hospice. And it was, I don't know if most people knew, but it offered services, and support groups and stuff for free.
Oh, wow.
They don't have hospice anymore?
Not the San Diego Hospice. I think they have other hospices, but the San Diego Hospice was absolutely huge. And they had,
I remember that one.
Yeah, they had grief and loss groups for pretty much everything under the sun, whether loss of a limb, it was a lot of different things. And they had exactly what you were talking about, Merencia. They had it even broken down to the ages of children.
Wow. Okay.
And, and then parents and the teens and then neighbors. It was so, the program was so meticulous, and it was absolutely amazing. And it was free for anybody in the community. I don't know that anything on that same level exists, but it was one of those things where, if you can find a group, one of the groups that I ran, it was at an elderly folks home, and it was everybody in the group had lost a loved one, and most of them was a spouse.
Okay.
The group was huge. It was like 30 people, but the group was beautiful because I implemented different exercises. Not only people get to talk about their loss, but they just share memories, and it was so cathartic. It was so, the group kept growing. So it was something that people were getting out of it. And one exercise that we did, I'd like collecting buttons, antique buttons. Don't ask me why. I just like them.
I love it.
And so I got a box, and it was a glass box, and I put all these buttons in there. And so I took it to the group, and the exercise is to take the box and pull out one button that you're trying, for whatever reason, one button, and put it in and let the box go all around. And then each person got to talk about why they chose that button. And the stories that were shared, like this one guy pulled out, this one older man pulled out this button. It looked like it was a button from an old petticoat. And he talked about his time in the military, which was, was young. He was in his mid-90s, his time in the military, and which was around the time that he met his wife. And just, it was, it just got it, just a single button. Just the ways the stories went were absolutely amazing. But just piggybacking on what you were saying, support groups, dealing with loss, and whether it's a likeness loss or what have you, can be very, very helpful at this time.
Absolutely.
Anytime, but definitely during these pivotal times of the year.
Absolutely.
And I think go ahead, Walanda.
No, go ahead.
No. Just before we transition into something else, what were you going to say, Walanda?
Nope.
Okay. No, I think it's just important to talk about to our viewers, like what to do. You know what I mean? If you are depressed right now, or you're just down and out, and I think one thing like we've been sharing with each other, that support group, whether it's just to listen to somebody, just not even say anything, but just let them vent and talk.
Yeah.
Or like you said, Lucretia, just sitting there in their presence, and if they want to watch a movie or just sitting there, just being with them physically, as well as another thing that we've been sharing with each other, just bringing up those funny memories. And that's what I've been talking to my clients about, just sitting with their family members, like, wow, remember when so-and-so did this? Remember when he did this? Oh, it was so funny. Or at this Thanksgiving, and just laughing and crying and just bringing those, and that's how you can keep that spirit alive, by talking about those memories, whether makes you happy, sad. It's important to continue to bring that spirit up of just remembrance of them and their life that God allowed you all to have with that person. I think it's really
absolutely
important,
absolutely absolutely, I agree with that.
Yeah. I know we talked about I call it creating a new. And so even though like there's certain things we might experience in the past, there's a shift and what have you, we can create new memories, we can create new traditions. And it can be they're as big or as small as you want them to be. And I know one thing, especially during this time where we can't physically be with one another because of technology, like Zoom. Yeah, exactly. Now you can have some fun with it, but you can like do interviews. And that's something that, I don't know if people,
good.
if you've ever done it before. You might have an elderly, parent or an aunt or somewhere. You can literally interview them via Zoom. And that can be something for their archives, and have you guys ever had the opportunity to interview or relatives or older people in your family or just loved ones at all? Have you done that?
I did in high school for a group project, and I interviewed my grandma Sadie. And you just brought back that memory. I totally forgot about that. That's a great archive.
Yeah.
And then the great thing about when you're interviewing, you can ask questions that, that they wouldn't normally come up in just regular conversation.
Right.
And people are generally more apt to share things, when did you and so-and-so, when you and my uncle meet? It was any type of controversy, because what happens when we have elders in the family is that we see them for who they are right now.
Right. Come on now.
But they were teens and in their 20s and 30s, like everybody else, and everything wasn't always smooth, and they've grown, and that's old school, but they might share some of the challenges. And I've learned some stories,
I am so excited. That is a great.
It can be.
I'm excited now.
Stuff that you never. I mean, let's keep it real. But you might learn of some affairs.
That's cool.
Well, I met your aunt, but this is. I'm keeping it real. This is what
was a sweetie pie over here.
And these are
family.
These are some of the choices we made, and because of these choices, these are the challenges we had, and because of the challenge, these are things we overcame. And this is now, you know what I mean? And stuff that you just never know, because they're not going to tap you on the shoulder and say, let me just tell you about this, but when you're interviewing,
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would say not even just for your elders, even like, my sisters are considerably older than I am.
Okay.
So they grew up in a different time than I did. And so even asking them questions about themselves and their experiences, but also asking them questions about my mom. They had a lot more time with her than I did. And so even asking like when she was younger, before I was here, like, what was she like? What'd you guys do? And things like that. So, it can be, your parents too,
Absolutely.
That's one of my regrets, is not knowing enough about my parents, before they passed.
Absolutely.
So
that's a great one. And then also too, like we discussed, or like we were going to discuss, is donating. to give back.
Yeah.
You know, perishables, you know, clothing, just call your local, you know, whether it's Salvation Army or Goodwill, or just look something up in your own community or city. And that's another way you can give back. You know, I think that's one of the things that we can also do.
Yeah. And if I can shift, I know everybody hasn't, you know, like Merencia says, like she hasn't really experienced grief around these times, but people still have holiday blues. And some of that has to do with, you know, doesn't have to do with loss, but it has to do with the time change and, you know,
so
not
true.
having enough sunlight and
So
having,
Yeah.
you know, all those changes too. So some of the symptoms, just to kind of run through them really quickly: fatigue, tension, frustration, loneliness, isolation, sadness, and a sense of loss. Whether, again, a person or loss of, again, you, job, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And so just like Merencia was saying about volunteerism is huge, being able to connect to others, but also being able to take some time for yourself, right? Because holidays, I'm not going to talk about commercialization that is involved with it because I will be on a tangent. But, you know, that this year might not be so much rush because of COVID, which is a blessing. But just making sure that you're having that time to get enough sleep, to have a normal routine, to make time for yourself and others, to eat and drink in moderation. You know, holidays are about, you know, we try rum, apple cider, and spiced eggnog and all that stuff. Just make sure, you know, that we're taking in a reasonable amount. Set reasonable expectations, set a budget. If you cannot afford it, it is blame COVID. Blame COVID. If you can't afford it, blame COVID. And just be okay with that. Be okay with that. Making plans in advance, knowing how you're going to celebrate. Lucretia talked about the Zoom. You know, warmth improves mood. So if you're sad, you're feeling sad, get a cup of tea, have a warm bath, snuggle by the fireplace, get you a good snuggie. But just thinking about those kinds of things, you know, in addition to what Merencia was saying about volunteering and giving back, like those are just some tips and tools. Also, you know, if you're not struggling with loss, you're just having the blues because the time changed and the holidays and all the stuff that's involved with it. Just, you know, some additional things to do as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you made a valid point, because I didn't experience the winter blues until I moved to DC. And I'm like, the winter blues is real.
It's real.
Like, the snow, you're literally indoors for several days because of the snow blizzard. You know what I mean? And it's dark outside because
the trees are bare. The trees are bare.
It's so real though. It's literally it's very important to really, and like you said, I think the key thing that you said too is like make a checklist, or at least like prioritize of what you want to do, instead of like wait till the last minute, because that's where you're gonna get flustered. You're gonna feel stressed out. If you already know, like you said, what's coming up next, that can really help you too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know, what I was looking at, a lot of them were saying like, do not stress about presents. Like, we get into this thing where we have to feel like we have to outdo. I have 25 people in my family, 25. Everybody don't get a present. Everybody's not going to get a present. We draw names, and that is what you get. You know, but because it's just too much. It's too much, and you will go broke, and then you're going to be depressed into January when you get that credit card statement. You know, or they ask that payday loan back. You're going to get depressed. So, you know, again, blame COVID. Just be like, you know what, COVID got us on a budget, and I think everybody will understand that.
You know, even consider taking up some type of hobby. You know, I mean, and when it comes to gifts, I mean, like, I give gifts, you know, not a lot, you know, definitely not taking care of my baby, but I'm about it, experiences. And over the past several years, we like to do extensive travel, but that's shut down right now. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so what do? No, I don't. I mean, I'm still about that travel life. So, I mean, you know, so just keep putting in the travel budget.
There you go.
It's going to come a day and take up some experience. I like to do things. That's make things, build things, you know, things like that. So definitely consider that. And it was interesting. I said to someone the other day, I was like, well, you know, because we won't be seeing a lot of family members. People should save a lot of money. And they was like, I've been shopping like it's crazy, you know,
On
Amazon,
Amazon.
yeah, you know, and I was like, oh, yeah, I guess you can. You don't need to be going out and about to spend money. It's a lot
That's
of
true.
ways to spend money, but just making a conscious choice. Like,
Budget. Better
yeah,
budget, because your utilities and your rent is number one.
hello,
You know?
And Amazon don't need no more money, but that's my soapbox I am not going to get on.
right? yeah, just
Know your responsibilities. You know what I mean, and know what's important at the end of the day. You know, it's just about being present. You know, being there for your loved ones and just sharing that love. I think that's, as you get older and you get more mature, you know, it's less about gifts, but just being present and just being with our family and just eating and watching movies and game nights. And, you know, that's something that, or at least for me, it's something that a gift can't really bring. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
After a while, your child's gonna get rid of the doll because you shouldn't get tired of it. But, you know, as you get older, it's like, you know, what's really, you know, what's really real and more meaningful.
Yeah, I like what you're saying, Merencia, but I will say there's some older folks who still spend a lot of money on some bags and stuff, you know, so I don't know if it's a maturity thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
You know what I mean? But at least, I mean, but I hear what you said. For me, it's the familiar relationship. It's that
absolutely
connectiveness, and that's means. But that I've always been that person. You know what I mean? So it's different for us, but just don't go broke.
See, but that's what I was trying to explain. I was trying to say, like, if you're budgeting,
that's another stress,
right? And it's like, if you're budgeting, you know, okay, you know, I can give gifts, whether it's at Nordstrom's, Neiman Marcus, J.C. Penney's, and you still have your money for your priorities and your responsibilities, then that's fine. Do that every year, which we all do. But I think the main thing is don't over splurge, and then you have your rent, and you're like,
absolutely.
So, I need some gift money. I mean, rent money. I mean,
that's the money guy to her talking. The money guy over there
talking. Oh my gosh! Learned a lot from my man, the money guy. I'm like, wow, really? Like, I thought I was good at budgeting, but okay.
I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it.
Our future is good financially over here.
I'm not mad at it.
Can't go wrong. Got the mental health, got the emotions, you know, over here on this side with the therapist, and I got the money guy. Hey,
right.
I am not
those
mad
financial tips. We can all use them. Exactly.
Right. So listen to her when she say budget. Because you don't want that extra stress. You don't want to go. I mean, 2020 has been for good and bad, but it's been a lot. So, you know, you don't want to go into the next year, you know, with more debt and more stress, you know, as much as you can eliminate or avoid, please avoid for your mental health, you know, if for nothing else, for your mental health as well.
Absolutely. So are there any new, as we're going out, I mean, just quickly, are there any new traditions that you guys are starting, or some new experiences that you find yourself having as the holidays come about? I know, Merencia, you talked about being at your boyfriend's family's home. So there's probably some things that you've experiencing that are new. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for us, just like moving into our future is at first I did feel bad that I wasn't going to have Thanksgiving with my own family. But you know, they are very understanding. I'm like, you know what, like, this is my family now, you know, moving into our future, like new traditions and new things are fine. And I think it's healthy to sometimes branch out and do something new.
Sure.
And it doesn't mean that, you know, you can't go back and, you know, share whatever you did the next day, coming over to somebody else's house. But, you know, like you shared right now, new traditions, I think, is healthy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Happy Thanksgiving.
Awesome. What about you, Lucretia? What new
so
you putting in place?
My daughter and I, we always have like holiday, in particular Christmas pajamas. But this year, my mom has pajamas, my sister and the boys have pajamas. We all have the same pajamas.
That's
so
cool.
What I'm starting is that we're going to take pictures.
Oh, I love it.
Over the weekend. So, you know, every year we'll have
cute.
like some different pajamas. Even if my mom or somebody's in a different city, we're still going to get those pajamas and kind of like bring it together. And then my mom, my sister and I told her that we remember her making this delicious mac and cheese. And the last time she made it, it was not good. And we said we wanted like the good mac and cheese. And we put so much
Don't bring
stress.
that back.
We made so much stress. And so sent us some recipes and she taught
so
us some
funny.
people. And she put her foot up in this macaroni and cheese. So
Right,
I
man.
don't know what you did to bring it back, but that's back on the table. So that's
So funny.
So yeah.
That's hilarious.
I love it.
That's hilarious.
You know.
I had a tradition when I was in San Diego. I started taking my nieces. I started with my nieces, my two of my nieces. I have a lot of them, but I started with two of them. We would sing Christmas carols at the La Jolla Rehabilitation Center. So I mean, I'm not there in San Diego anymore.
Right.
My idea that I want to continue doing is just to volunteer.
Okay.
On those days. I know that's like the thing that people do. I like to volunteer in general, but I
Okay.
would love to spend, I wanted to spend part of Thanksgiving being able to do that, but with COVID, it's a little tricky as far as serving people.
Yeah.
That's the kind of volunteerism I like to do, is I like to serve. So that will be one of my traditions when the world opens back up. To be able to do that more often.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So we're hoping that we've shared something, just our own personal experience as well as professional experience that might be able to help the folks who are tuning in. Exactly what we've done or did may not work for you, but it's about finding what works for you and giving yourself the grace to just go forth with that. It doesn't have to look like anybody else's, way of handling things, but just giving yourself permission just to move through and be open to asking for help, you know what I mean? Or even receiving someone's act of kindness and let them know, what actually works for you,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
good stuff.
Yeah. And so I know we talk about a lot of different like crises lines and stuff like that. They're all out there. But in particular, 24-hour crisis hotline, if you find that you might need it or someone that you know can benefit from it. It's 800-273-TALK. Again, that's 800-273-8255. And you don't have to remember all the numbers, 211 can be, very helpful as well.
No, thank you for all of that, Lucretia, because again, it's really important during these times that anybody, right, because we're all human, to reach out for help, because when we're vulnerable mentally and emotionally, a lot can happen. When it comes to suicide, or the new term is die by suicide. So it is very important to know that we are only human. Our brain can only take so much.
Absolutely.
And even if you're crying, even if, you were raised like, oh, man can't cry, or, I got to suck it in. No, it's natural. It's only human that our body and our brain is going to explode if we're not releasing it in a healthy way. So please, I just really urge people.
Absolutely.
Reach out to anybody, even if it's just at a grocery store, because again, like I think Walanda said, give yourself grace, and to know, like, what, I've been strong for too long, where I think I could do it by myself, and now I need some help, just so that you can live long and live,
Yes, absolutely.
For sure. Well, I hope everyone has an amazing, and we're still in the holiday season. So hopefully, we're taking like Lucretia was saying, like, you figure out what works best for you, listen to your own voice. I definitely believe, everybody has what they need. Just trying to figure out for themselves what works best for them. And hopefully some of these tips helped. That budget tip was budget.
Right. Makes you sleep better at night. I promise. Right? I live for that.
But yeah, just taking care of yourself, because you're the only you got. And you have to be with you 24/7. You don't get breaks from yourself.
Yeah.
So making sure that you're taking care of yourself is not selfish.
Yeah.
It actually is you being able to be there for other people, because if you don't have anything in the tank, you can't give to anybody else.
Yeah.
So
I've been saying that so much to my clients, Walanda.
Mhm.
It's so true.
mhm.
Very true.
Yeah.
Well-
So good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.
Yes,
Good night.
weekend.
Happy holidays.
Yes.